Ireland, welcome to Alexei Collado Acosta. Thank you, Mr. Martin Fallon and the referee, Mr. Sean Messer. Ladies and gentlemen, an international super bantamweight contest over 10 3-minute rounds.
So this real international hodgepodge, isn't it, here in Cleethorpes, with a Cuban against a Venezuelan.
Yeah,
it's a small world.
Absolutely. It's another stamp in the passport for both men. I'm sure they'll have bought a postcard or two to take home as well. What they really want to take home is another victory.
For the first round.
What I should also say is it's a bit of a statement from Carl Greaves, our promoter, to have a bout of this quality on this show, really upping the ante is Carl, and we're very grateful here on Fight Night from Hatton TV on YouTube.
So it's Alexei Collado Acosta, to give him his full name. Alexei Collado, he usually boxes under in the white trunks with the gold and green trim, up against the Venezuelan fellow South American Franklin Varela in green and red. You can see that there's a clear height advantage for Collado. Around about almost 6 inches taller than his opponent. Not so much difference between them in the weights at the weigh-in, just half a pound. But I'm sure Collado will be looking to use his reach and looking to use those sledgehammer fists, which I mentioned have brought him 14 wins, all inside the distance to date. So we're scheduled to go 10 rounds tonight, under the watchful gaze of referee Sean Messer. Whether we go 10 rounds or not will largely depend on what they have to offer. And so far that's a low blow, I think, from Varela, which has got Collado doubled up. Took exception to that blow. Sure, it was accidental, but you don't need me to tell you it was a painful blow.
Just made a little bit more likely to happen because of the
well, the difference in stature, isn't it? Yeah, exactly, yeah. He's got to punch a long way up to get above the belt as Varela, so yeah, maybe worth mentioning that in his defence.
And Collado just adjusting the waistband, saying, this is it, here's the target.
That was noted. Whether it was to alert his opponent or just to make sure it was in the right place in case he got caught downstairs again.
No lower than the X of Alexei, please.
Well, I do say X marks the spot, but perhaps not on this occasion. It's not the sort of treasure he wants disturbed. And I think that's about enough of that. Let's get back to the boxing.
We should say good evening to everyone watching in Ireland, because I'm sure we've got quite a few logging on to see the Irish-based Cuban here tonight. Don't forget you can tweet us, use the hashtag #HattonTV, or of course your comments on the YouTube channel are more than welcome. Some more shout-outs later. Of course, Jamie Spence against Kevin Hooper still to come, the big fight. This one's 10 rounds, that one's 10 rounds too, so plenty more boxing to come, assuming they go the distance.
Well, Varela's just trying to ease himself into the contest here. Knows he's got to be very, very careful whenever Collado is within range. Collado still perhaps just feeling the effects of that early low blow.
In some ways, a difficult round to score. Here's a little bit of the action coming up, I think.
Well, you mentioned the countries involved in terms of the fact that he's an Irish-based Cuban, Alexei Collado. Well, there's real boxing heartlands, both those countries in Ireland and Cuba. They love their boxing. So I'm sure he'll have lots of followers in both those countries.
Of course, the Cubans had a great tradition over the years in amateur boxing in particular, and almost unbeatable in the...
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2012, because normally you can't go to an Olympic Games without the Cuban in the final.
No. I think, is it 5 Brits have already qualified though, so we've got great hopes for home medals. The likes of Anthony Joshua, Andrew Selby.
Yeah, countdown to those 2012 Olympic Games, very much on in the amateur ranks, but of course this tonight from Cleethorpes is the professional paid ranks. These are the men who've served their term in the amateur game and now stepped up to the pro arena. Varela really does need to step up here, as he's facing a considerable height disadvantage. And you can see how Collado now is looking to work, just punching in little bunches, offloading a couple of times, then getting safely out of harm's way. And the smaller man, Varela, has got to come up with some tactics to try and counter this. He faced a similar height disadvantage, I suppose, in that contest I mentioned last time out against Bury's Scott Quigg. Quigg, another one who's fairly tall for this kind of weight division.
I don't have those stats. I'd fancy Collado's just a little bit taller than Scott, but no less talented. In fact, probably you'd Quigg against Collado, you'd back Quigg, I would think, but that's a fight for another day, maybe.
Varela doing his best here to prevent the Cuban having it all his own way.
Incidentally, talking of Scott Quigg, there will be full coverage next week in the build-up to his British title fight against Jason Booth. That's on the main website, hattonboxing.com/TV. Watch out for that. News every day, of course, on the website. Do join us for that, and of course more fights to come on YouTube in the coming months.
Collado just beginning to find his distance now. A little bit of a shove there to get Varela at the kind of distance he wants. Varela's trying to get in nice and tight.
Well, he's being warned for a low blow again. I thought that was right on the belt, so maybe just a little bit unfortunate to be pulled up for that. One thing, you don't want to get on the wrong side of the referee in as early as round 2 of a 10-rounder, with him having the thought that maybe you might be infringing the rules, even if you're not.
Referee Sean Messer keeping a close eye on proceedings. Well, team Collado, you can see, fairly happy in their corner.
So Collado here with the smaller man in front of him, the smaller target. It's just almost as difficult to punch downwards as it is for Varela to punch upwards. Not landing too many crisp, clean shots there, but Collado probably just the busier of the two boxers, probably just shading it at the moment. Good left hook to the ribs there, got through. Some more of your messages. Let's get some in, because there'll be plenty later, I'm sure, for Jamie Spate and for Kevin Hooper. And we've got good luck Jamie from Tony and Mandy, and also from the Fish Dog, who's having a few beers with the boys in Grimsby tonight, apparently.
Excellent.
Not sure where, but maybe that's a pub, could be. Certainly an old mariner by the sound of it. Good to know you're watching us.
So into round 3, international super bantamweight contest. Alexei Collado against Franklin Varela. Collado, the taller of the two men in the white trunks, just beginning to establish a bit more of a superiority over his opponent, but it's taken a little while for this fight to warm up. Of course, I'm sure they have the longer distance in mind. You don't want to blow a fuse early on. Interesting if it does go the distance, though, that that'll be new territory for Collado, because he's never been beyond the 6th so far, whereas Varela, well, you can he's got a fistful of fights that have gone 10, 12 rounds, so he knows all about durability.
Dan Barker on Twitter has asked, where's Ricky tonight? The answer is I don't know, but hopefully watching. Good evening, Ricky.
Varela just trapped in his own corner for the moment. The referee having to lay down the law again, but this time it's to Collado. Much cagier affair so far, this one.
Yeah, very much the unknown for both of them. Varela, I'm sure, will be wary of Collado's record of finishing things in short order. But we know from that fight with Scott Quigg, Varela's made of tough stuff. But at the moment, he's just being bossed around a little bit.
Yeah, if my memory serves me right, it was body shots from Scott Quigg that really brought the end to that fight. So maybe there's something in that for Collado, that he should look to target the body of Varela and see if there's any inherent weakness there.
And I just think Collado now just trying to put a little bit extra into these shots in round 3.
Yes, he's beginning to unload, beginning to warm to the task now, and Varela finding himself under a little bit more constant pressure. I'm sure that was a shove, as emphasised by the referee's gesture. Approaching the end of the round. Right on cue. Collado lands just one more punch, but Varela doesn't seem too ruffled by proceedings so far.
No, so both men breathing pretty deeply. Collado, as we say, just planting his feet a little bit more and trying to pin Varela down against the ropes, back against the ropes, I should say. So some of those swings, though, falling short. So just a little untidy from the Cuban in that particular sequence, and then a definite shove, which sent the Venezuelan backwards. We'd love to hear from you if you are in Venezuela or Cuba tonight, incidentally. I'm not sure how we can prove it, but do get in touch.
Well, I'm told that Franklin Varela is a greengrocer back in Caracas, so maybe if you get your veg from Franklin, let us know. I'm also tempted to say he's got to make sure he doesn't get hit by a peach of a shot, but I'm sure we can think of a few more dreadful puns between us.
Yeah, there's one I've just thought of that I can't use, but never mind. So Varela in the red trunks against Collado in the white, with the Cuban flag across his backside. Very colourful.
Collado, not surprisingly, his boxing nickname is the Hurricane, which I'm sure is a tribute to the way he's gone through his opponents so far in his professional career. But it hasn't quite blown at full force just yet.
No, not sure what he is on the Beaufort scale, Phil, but probably about a 6. And when that staggered Varela just a little bit, short left.
Bit more than a breeze, I think he's at the moment. He's beginning to wind things up now. And just get the feeling that Franklin Varela is beginning to breathe a little bit more heavily now. He's trying to move around the ring to keep out of the way, and it's more self-preservation rather than offering any mode of attack now. And he really is being hunted down by Collado. And it's the Cuban who is metaphorically puffing on his big cigar at the moment.
He's more a tropical storm than a hurricane at the moment, Phil, I think.
No, he really is beginning to show his class now, Collado.
Yeah, I think you get the impression he's had enough of this. 4 rounds is plenty. He doesn't want to go much further. Having said that, Varela still defending stoutly and in no particular trouble.
Yeah, real look of determination, though, on the face of the Cuban now. If you stare deep into his eyes, you can see that he's beginning to fancy this one. He means business now. But Varela putting up a game show.
Collado with that right hand
held
high.
Yeah, there's a good right there, which Varela had to soak up, and he's trapped in the neutral corner here, the Venezuelan. Got to fight his way out of trouble, and does so just in the nick of time.
Still, some of those Cuban shots were falling short of their target, though, even though Varela was trapped in the corner. So at times flatters to deceive, very flashy, but you've got to land them. Near the end of the round, and remember it's scheduled for 10. And then another 10-rounder to come later, of course, with the big title fight between Kevin Hooper and Jamie Spate for the British Masters lightweight title.
No title at stake here, but a lot of pride, I'm sure, between two South Americans. And this was the moment when Varela found himself trapped in the corner, but apart from one or two punches, Collado didn't really make it count. Perhaps let his man off the hook there.
Still your comments coming in. MCS Boxing has just sent us a tweet. You can see me reading it here. It's marvellous technology, isn't it? Brilliant coverage on YouTube of tonight's boxing.
Corners,
it's most certainly the future. Local regional fights on the web, fantastic. Well, we're glad you're enjoying it. We are too, aren't we, Phil?
Yeah, we'd say aye to that, definitely. And of course, we're still building up to the main event, which will follow this one. But plenty still to be settled in this little international dust-up before we get to domestic business here in Cleethorpes. Reminder, it's Franklin Varela in the red trunks up against Alexei Collado in white. Collado, the man with the unblemished record, 14 fights, 14 wins, all by knockout. Has he just been keeping his powder dry until now? Varela, a former Venezuelan and WBC Latino champion, so he has some pedigree as well.
And he's come through the worst of the assault, I think, by Collado. Watch the commentator's curse strike now, but I think he's steadied himself a little bit, and he's much more back in the groove.
Well, he'd never been stopped until last year, Varela. Mexican Giovanni Caro was the first to do that to him. Scott Quigg, as we mentioned, stopped him a couple of months ago, but until then, nobody'd been able to halt him inside the distance. His only other setbacks on points decisions. Boxed around the globe as well has Varela. First 13 fights in his native Venezuela. Since then he's boxed in Panama, Haiti, Mexico, Colombia, and now Bury and Cleethorpes. It goes quite well, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
It's like the old Del Boy Van London, Paris, Peckham, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's Caracas, isn't he?
Touche. I think I can safely say I walked straight onto that one.
What I should say also, the atmosphere in the hall is still good. There's a murmur. In the previous three contests, of course, they were all shouting for a particular boxer. This time they're sitting back and enjoying some class boxers up there that they probably don't mind too much who wins. They're just enjoying the fight. Hope you are at home or wherever you're watching on YouTube as well, because this is good international super bantamweight boxing between two people who've come a long way to entertain us tonight.
I think the good thing about tonight's boxing so far as well, it's been fights of contrast. There's been different things to admire in each one. And this is no different. Maybe one more for the purists, maybe more about technique than brute force, power, guts, determination, call it what you will. Two good boxers in the ring, one or two little discretions, and Collado again taking exception, as did the referee, to Varela's antics there. Got to be careful not to get on the wrong side of the ref.
So again, a round where difficult to split them particularly. Nobody landed any particularly telling shots, but probably just work rate alone, your eye goes to Collado, but Varela will have his backers too. Well,
he's reached the halfway mark unscathed. There aren't too many people who've lasted 5 rounds with Alexei Collado so far, so that's something of a feather in his cap.
So, yep, Varela busy, not prepared, not afraid to go forward and attack the bigger man, but then a little bit of punch on the break, which didn't go too well with the referee. Just flagging up at the rest of the evening, we've got the big fight coming up, of course, Kevin Hooper against Jamie Spate. After this one, there will be a little break in the hall here, but we've got a bonus for you. For those of you who missed our show a month ago, we've got a cracking fight from the Elephant and Castle, our first fight night show between Ben Day and Robin Deacon, which we're going to play during the interval, and that was a real cracker between somebody making his debut and an old veteran, dare I say, and it was a brilliant fight. So that's still to come before the main event of the evening. So we will keep you entertained with the boxing here on Hatton TV and YouTube.
Yeah, some terrific fights that night at the Elephant and Castle, and tonight's no different. This the latest.
Varela landed with a good overhand right there, and another one just tags him. Maybe Collado just losing his focus a bit.
I just wonder whether Varela's got a kind of second wind here, and he's taking Collado into almost unknown territory here. So it'll be interesting to see how the Cuban's stamina holds up.
It's also a mental thing, Phil, isn't it? When you've been used to people just falling at your feet, when suddenly somebody doesn't, you might have to start having a different thought process.
Yeah, well, he may just be second-guessing and questioning himself. A little uppercut there, which landed on the chin of Varela, but he seems to have taken it pretty well.
Varela's shorts slipping down, unveiling the protector.
I'm glad you said that, protector.
Well,
I was worried for a moment.
I was going to say to any ladies watching, just prepare to avert your eyes just in case. I think we're going to be okay.
Of course, the guard's very important. It was in this contest early on where Varela actually caught Collado with a lowish blow, and the protectors are there to hopefully save them from any damage downstairs. And Varela actually just seems to be sensing that he might have a chance here, which perhaps he didn't think there would be a round or two ago, and he's just beginning to ask 1 or 2 questions now of Collado. Get the feeling the pendulum may be swinging.
Yeah, he's just stayed in the fight, hasn't he, while Collado was maybe throwing his best shots, and perhaps he's got the greater fitness. We're about to find out.
Yeah, well, this is good now from Varela, and Collado here is going to have to collect his thoughts, maybe come up with plan B, because plan A, which presumably was to put Varela on his backside, has not worked in the opening half of this fight. Varela showing his staying power, showing his durability, and now beginning to show 1 or 2 attacking moves of his own. Very much on the defensive in the opening 4 rounds or so, but all of a sudden it's Varela who's coming on a little stronger, and Collado who just looks a little more concerned at the break now.
Yes, very interesting. It just shows how things can turn around, doesn't it? Varela was not a bit part in the contest in sort of rounds 3 and 4, but he was certainly being dominated by Collado, but now he's weathered the storm and he's just coming back with shots of his own and picking Collado off, and I think maybe Collado's run out of a few ideas, Phil.
Yeah, well, as I say, he came in with a very, very impressive record, hasn't perhaps lived up to expectations so far, but there's still time for Alexei Collado. He has a win against another Venezuelan on his record, beat Felix Machado back in February of last year. But this particular Venezuelan, Franklin Varela, is proving a very stubborn opponent indeed.
And we have a bit of a flood in the corner to our right at the moment, which is why the action is...
well, we were talking about the hurricane not coming off. I think the monsoon's happened.
Or the tide's come in here at Cleethorpes. A couple of quick shout-outs to Ron Katz in New York. Good to know you're watching. Also a shout-out, and I have to be careful about this one, to Bat Fasted. Thank you very much. Gave me a chuckle anyway.
Right, what has Collado got to offer? What words of wisdom has he been given from his corner, perhaps, as we're going deeper into this contest? Deeper than he's ever been before, in fact, in his professional career. Round 7 of a scheduled 10 international super bantamweight contest.
Varela working downstairs now, just looking to try and weaken Collado if he can. Just take the stuffing out of him, and they've been playing the long game.
Sting, I think, yeah, draw his sting, and he's done that pretty well so far. Well, this is a pretty good response from Varela to that defeat we were talking about earlier against Scott Quigg. Maybe he felt that night he didn't show his best. Maybe it shows that Collado is not quite in the same class as Scott Quigg. Varela putting up a much better show on this, his second visit to England.
Collado definitely not throwing anything like as many punches as he was in the early rounds, as he fell. And
another low blow. That is a low blow from Varela.
I think that was clear, wasn't it? Get to your corner and stay there. Now, of course, he's going to have a little bit of time to recover from that. It was the clip round the back of the head that sort of added to it, and he's having a point deducted now. So low blow and then a karate chop to the back of the head almost. Not conducive to...
well, we mentioned earlier that Sean Messer is not a man to mess with, and I think he's just let Franklin Varela know who's in charge. And that will play by the rules, thank you very much. Well, that may just have spiced up Collado, but his gum shield's come flying out. It's actually shattered, yeah, his gum shield is in pieces in the ring. And it is all happening now.
I have to admit, I'm not quite sure
why he's been allowed to...
was it gum shield or was it ice? I'm not sure. Did somebody throw something? I'm a little bemused there.
Certainly something in the ring. I thought it was a gum shield, but the
maybe not.
Referee's happy for it to continue, so... Anyway, we do have boxing. Well, it's... as we mentioned, another fight you can't take your eyes off because for one reason or another there's plenty going on in the ring.
So that was certainly an incident-packed round, wasn't it? And the 7th of 10.
Well, we had a point deducted for Varela for the low blow. Objects flying around the ring, fists flying inside it. And we got 3 more rounds to go.
So there's the low blow. It was low, wasn't it? And then, well, just smack him on the back of the head. Why not?
Well, he was on the way down, so I'll just make sure.
And I'm not sure what Varela said, but it was something along the lines of, what, low? But
well, the referee at least let him know in no uncertain terms with his get in that corner. I think the message got home. Obviously, the referees, South American, Portuguese, Spanish, whatever they speak in Venezuela, is not up to it. But a good old bellow to get in the corner, got the message home.
Round 8.
We're still getting messages via YouTube and Twitter. Lots of good luck and respect to all fighters from YouTube, they say. And I think that last round really summed all that up. It's a tough game in there, isn't it?
Well, it is, and Franklin Varela is a tough fighter. And there's a little bit of needle between these two now as well, so that's just something else to throw into the mix. It'll be a good test of stamina as we get into the final quarter of this fight. Varela, the shorter man, he's now dominating centre ring. Collado desperately trying to reassert some of the authority he had in the opening rounds, but he's finding it much harder now. The sense some of the snap has gone out of his punching.
You also sense that Varela's just got to be very careful, because as he's now taking the fight more to his opponent, he can't afford another blow to slip a little low, can he? Because then he's in real trouble.
Yeah, it'd be a shame if the contest was decided on something like that, because it has been an absorbing seesaw contest. It was certainly Collado in the ascendancy early on, but the balance of power has definitely tipped in the last few rounds.
Question is, will it have been enough? And if Collado can just put something together in these last 3 rounds, then maybe, you know, he'll still nick the verdict.
Well, it's a case of how far was Varela behind, and then the deduction for the low blow. It's
that could yet have proved critical, couldn't it? But let's wait and see. Collado coming back with a little bit more in this round.
Collado, unbeaten as a professional since his debut, just over 3 years ago, September 2008. He incidentally won a junior world title at flyweight in 2006 in Morocco, when he was one of 5 Cuban champions at that event, which underlines something we were saying earlier, how good Cuba are, particularly in amateur boxing.
Well, this I haven't seen any of his other fights, so I guess this is probably one of the hardest fights that Collado has faced in terms of physicality, but also working it out mentally, and he certainly hasn't got the answer yet, has he?
Well, there's a little shrug of his shoulders as he turns to his corner, as if to ask them for inspiration ahead of the final scheduled 2 rounds of this 10-round international super bantamweight contest. It's a slightly better round for Collado for me. Just recovered some of his poise, but I still don't think there's quite the power in those punches that he had in the early stages.
No, I think you're right. Time for some more shout-outs. Don't forget you can message us via YouTube or via Twitter. Happy birthday to Pinest77. I don't know whether that means Pinest is 77 or that's just his handle. Lots of respect to Max Scriven from YouTube as well. And good luck, Jamie. Love from your sister. That's referring to Jamie Spate coming up in a little while in the big title fight against Kevin Hooper.
Meanwhile, round 9. Varela in red, Collado in white, rather.
Don't forget, we'd particularly like to hear from you if you're watching in some exotic location around the world. We've had Finland, Texas and Grimsby so far. So
Australia, there was one from Australia.
Yes, Australia
earlier.
as well, yeah. So let us know where you are via Twitter, hashtag Hatton TV, or on YouTube, on the comments section, which if you're watching on YouTube, you will be seeing that to the right of your screen now.
To the right of the ring now, Collado still trying to land a really meaningful punch on the chin of Franklin Varela, but it's been a fruitless pursuit so far. Varela marching forward, taking whatever has been thrown in his direction so far. Collado, you can see, is trying to line up a really big right hand. Varela having none of it.
Well, I have to say, by round 4, I didn't really expect us to be going to go round the full 10, but it's looking more and more likely now, Phil.
I'm pretty sure Collado wasn't expecting to go the distance, so this is new territory for him. Just a pregnant pause between the two men there as they just took a little breather mid-round, and no excuses for that, really. No questioning the physical condition of these two. They both look in excellent shape. Of course, it's really hot inside the arena, the lights, the TV cameras and everything. These two will perhaps be more used to that sort of thing than maybe some or two of the rookie English fighters on the card tonight. This one does now look as though it's going the distance. We're deep into round 9. And despite his best efforts, Collado hasn't been able to pin Varela. Varela still freewheeling around the ring, showing that he's got plenty of life in those legs at least.
Collado just looking slightly bemused about what should happen next. Varela just having a quick shower, and I should imagine he's pretty happy with what's happened so far. Action from that 9th round, digging into the body, the right hand from Collado. Varela trapped against the ropes, but that's happened a few times. Some of those falling pretty short, not really getting the full power into them, Phil. And
well, you can see the intent from Collado, but frankly, I'm afraid, not quite the skills to back it up.
So, which way is it going to go, Phil? I'll get in before you ask me.
Well, early on I had it Collado's way, no problem at all. Now I'm not so sure. That will depend on, as we said, that deduction for a low blow against Varela, which may yet come back to haunt him if it's really, really close. But he's certainly been the better fighter in the second half. Collado, for me, was on top to begin with, so you pays your money, you takes your choice.
What price a draw?
Well, I wouldn't rule it out.
No. Oh, and there's a good
cluster from Collado.
The best really for several rounds.
Well, maybe he's had a bit of a talking to from his corner. Maybe it comes down to who wants it the most in this 10th and final round.
They're both landing there. I think the crowd here really appreciated this contest. It has been fascinating. Anything but predictable.
Well, the atmosphere has totally changed. It's been pretty raucous when they've had one of their own sort of hometown heroes to back, but it's been just a sort of murmur of appreciation around rather than whoops and cheers that we had in the early contests. And I think they are certainly absorbed in this one. Maybe they, like us, just interested to see which way it's going to go. Perhaps Sean Messer, the man with the most important job to judge who's going to get the nod if, as expected now, it does go the distance. But maybe there's time for somebody to finish it, but he'll need something explosive now in the last 80 seconds or so.
Good work by Varela there.
Yeah, Varela getting through with that left hand on a couple of occasions there as Collado just drops his guard. That was a little bit low again from Varela, got away with it.
Varela's corner just alongside her, waving him forward. Just keep the pressure up. Nick this round, and maybe they think they'll nick the contest.
Yeah, well, it doesn't do any harm to give the referee a little pointer in the last 30 seconds or so if it is a close contest. Just finish well, see if that'll tip the balance in your favour. Both men are going for it, but it's becoming a bit more of a slugfest than a boxing match, which is in contrast really with what's gone before.
So into the last 10 seconds, we'll soon find the answer.
Yeah, and it's Varela who's finishing the stronger of the two for me. Happy to let Collado come on to him. It's
going to be Collado, I think.
Well, he's given it to himself, and he looks to the referee, and it is indeed Alexei Collado who gets the nod. But again, it'll be interesting to see the scores, because I have a feeling that was pretty close in the end, and certainly a lot closer than Alexei Collado would have thought after the way the opening 3 or 4 rounds went.
Yep, certainly was. And Collado just breathing deeply, but he'll have learnt plenty from that, won't he?
Well, he maintains his unblemished 100% record. It's 15 from 15 now, but for the first time he's been taken the distance, and he was taken all the way by a very tough, experienced campaigner in Franklin Varela. And for me, Varela perhaps a little unlucky not to, well, maybe even get a share of the spoils tonight, but it's Collado who's got the verdict, and we'll be able to hear in a moment just by how many.
And memo to myself, do check out whether they can speak English. So we'll see. We might be talking to Alexei Collado in a moment.
Stay tuned for Nigel Turner's multilingual interview.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 10 rounds of boxing, the referee Sean Messer's scorecard reads for Franklin Varela 91 points, Alexei Acosta 99 points. Your winner and still undefeated, Alexei Collado Acosta. And ladies and gentlemen, your appreciation there for Franklin Varela.
So Collado just taking the plaudits inside the ring, posing for 1 or 2 photographs. No doubt a very relieved man to have kept his record intact. He's making his way across to the corner now, where Nigel Turner will try to get a word or two, and depending on how good his English is, it may well be a word or two.
Okay, thanks, Phil. Alexei Collado is with us. Congratulations, that was a hard fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, very tough fight, but about my training for that happened, I can win. Still in the ring, about this punch he hit me in my head, the bad foul.
Yeah, the low blow first.
And then my head.
But he came back strongly in the latter rounds, didn't he?
Yeah, he's quite strong, still strong. But I still training. I do my coach say all the time the fight, and then I do. If that happen, I win the fight.
Because you're used to knocking people out, aren't you?
Yeah, all the time. All the time is not happy. You know?
So did you learn a lot from that tonight? Did you learn a lot? Is it good experience?
Yeah, my experience. Yeah, it's my first fight all round. My first 10 round too. I never fight to 10 round.
And one day, you want to fight for a world title?
Yeah, of course. I have a plan now with my manager and my coach, and training and focus for that, for fight to the title. I will.
Okay, well, many congratulations and thank you for entertaining us tonight.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Alexei Collado, ladies and gentlemen, from Cuba, out of Ireland, who's entertained us royally here tonight. Thanks very much indeed. Now, there is going to be an interval here in the hall, but live on Hatton TV on the YouTube channel, we're going to bring you some more action in just a moment. It was a month ago.